So welcome back. When we left off, I had been doing this from these Magello watercolor paints. And it's actually been a couple days since I decided to finish this recording. I just got caught up doing other things, so that's life. But here's how it looks when it dries. Now, I'm guessing, I don't know. I think I put too much water down. But you can see some of the way it blends together. When it does stuff like this, that's because the water ran in that way and pushed the color back. So that's why I think I put too much water on this side. I should have just dampened it. That's one of the problems with using a more natural watercolor brush, is it has a tendency to hold more water than you think it does. At least that's what happens to me. So on this note, what I thought I'd do is make something, right? I don't really have any particular fine painting in mind. What you're hearing me is rolling around right now. I don't have any fine painting in mind. I thought one area I always struggle with is in doing a character, like character development type thing. I'd really love to do that and get better at it. So guess what? I am going to make a watercolor gnome today, and we're just going to do I think we're just going to do the head. I'm using the Cranston watercolor paper, and all I'm doing is just the head, just because, I don't know, that's because that's what I want to do. And we're going to do nice big head. Now, this is a character, so I'm not looking for one-to-one ratios, believability, stuff like that. Like if you look at characters like Disney characters, their proportions are not realistic, right? We know that, but we just kind of ignore it. So what I'm doing, I guess I should say the reason I want to do a gnome, anybody that knows me for a while knows that I have gnomes in the house. Just something I have always collected. They're Tom Clark gnomes is what I really have. And we're gonna keep that whole round. And I just like gnomes. I like the mythology around gnomes. I like what they mean as characters. So in mythology, gnomes, woodland sprites of sorts that are industrious, wise. That is their defining traits. And they are known for being nice to humans and helping humans. And that's why I like them. See, pretty simple. I have no other reason to do a gnome except those reasons that I've listed. And actually, I'm going to take this gnome cap and I'm going to make it a little more pointed, keep it in the paper here. I want to do that because what I'd really like to do is develop this gnome character as something that I'll do off and on, and maybe make some stickers out of, stuff like that. Just because, again, I like gnomes. I figure there doesn't have to be any other reason for doing something than the fact that I like it. Now, I think we should do a younger gnome, which means we're not going to do a white beard. We're going to do a colorful beard. Because, how am I going to test out these colors unless I do something colorful? That makes sense. And, I don't really want to do much by way of eyes, but let's do something, right? Thing with cartoon characters, Their eyes are way, way too big. I mean, nothing, and that, I don't like that. Nothing, there's nothing natural about these eye shapes. But look at Disney princesses, right? There is nothing natural about their eye shape. I think that's way too big of a pupil, don't you? Way, way, way too big. Way too big. Let's do something a little more fixated, right? And I think with that, let's cut these eyes down for size here. I'm not using my normal soft lead pencil, so what I'm noticing with the way I have the eye shaped right now, I have a very terrified gnome. But that might be something fun to do, right? He's terrified because I'm creating him at the moment. Wouldn't you be terrified of that? I would be. And ears. So I think gnomes should have round ears. I think the defining characteristics of gnomes is round. And guess what? This gnome is going to be bald. There's no hair peeking out. And you know why? Because I don't have any hair. So why should he? I don't know. Maybe that eye shape works. Maybe it doesn't. I'm trying to think of what other characters, how like Disney eyes are or anime eyes are. And we need eyebrows. So let's give him a kind of crazy look. He's a crazy gnome. I think that works for me, a crazy gnome. And I like actually how I got kind of a bumpy nose there going on. Now what we're going to do, I'm going to watercolor this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use straight colors. I'm not going to attempt to mix colors because I want this to be more of an illustration, not a painting as such. So let's see, I'm looking at what I have down. Now remember I confused the rose madder and the quincidon rose. So I think I'm going to use the rose madder for the hat. And now what you're going to see me do is I'm going to watercolor this guy, right? Then I'm going to have to let it dry. So then I'll end up coming back and I will do an outline. And the reason for the outline is because this is an illustration. This is a cartoon, basically. And so cartoons have outlines. And it helps it stand out, helps it pop. And I'm going to do something fun here. I told you I'm not mixing things. But that that bright opera color, I want to do some of that in here. Kind of like the hat here is going from light to darkness. Light with the opera pink into a darker color here. And I think that's something fun. Just, again, this is just to play with the colors that I have and see how I like it. Whenever I've tried to do things like this before, I've never really used watercolor paper for illustration. So this is a first for me for trying that. Now, skin tone. Obviously, I don't think we're going to do a natural skin tone. I think there should be, this is what I think. I'm going to take a little bit of red here. This is the permanent red, right? And I want a really, really, really light wash of that. So the way you get a light wash is you add more water, right? That's the way watercolor works. The more water you add, the lighter the color. I think he should have a red nose. Maybe he's been drinking some whiskey, right? Don't they say that's one of the signs is, you know, redness of the face? And I think he should have a little bit of red peeking down here for his cheeks. But let's do a skin color, closer to skin. I'm gonna try this yellow ochre. And let me add, and here I said I wasn't gonna be mixing colors, but let me add some of this raw sienna to it. So we're gonna give him more of a brown skin tone. Don't ask me if this is gonna work, because I don't know. I know, having been looked at a lot of watercolor artists and stuff, a lot of people don't like yellow ochre, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not really sure why. Maybe it's because it's, you know, misused. I don't know. I mean, I have found it a color that I need to use sometimes. So, especially living out here in the desert, and I like to do, you know, desert pieces. So, you know, it's out here. You know, it's something that exists in this nature that I live in. You see, I'm getting some of the pink bleeding in here. Although that's not a bad. Again, don't ask me what I'm doing, because I don't know. I'm adding some of that pink into the yellow ochre. I'll do it this way. And I'm liking how that's shifting the color. So that's the thing to remember with watercolor, and especially with like working with a new set like this, is it's experimenting, and you know, you don't know what you're going to end up with until you try it. Because I'm actually liking how that pink comes into it. I'm liking the style, I should say, that it's giving me, the coloration, and how that color is flowing a bit. Trying to add some more water. I don't want to add too much color in, because I do want, you know, other things, I should say. I'm actually enjoying how this is turning out. Now, oh, I need to do his lips. His lips are obviously going to be a tad more pink, right? I want it to be a light shade. Now, remember, with watercolor, anytime you do anything, it's going to, when it dries, it's going to be lighter than it is on the paper currently. It soaks in, for lack of a better way to put it. I'm actually really enjoying how this is turning out. I got this crazy gnome, so I'm really enjoying this, and I am going to do, like I said, I'm going to do some ink work on this too when it dries, and I'll record that as well, because I'll probably end up doing some things like cross hatching and things of that nature. You know, or, you know, well, I don't know, maybe I don't really know. I don't know what I'm doing. So this character, kind of what I hope to be a part of this channel and a part of my art, is coming to life before you. And the reason I'm doing that, again, I've never felt that I've been very good at this part, and I want to get better at it, which means you are going to get to see me progress on this. And I think that's a good thing. At least that's what I believe. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a red brown to start out on his mustache. That's this one. This is the red brown. Now, you notice I didn't pick up much color, but I picked up a lot of water. That is a natural hair brush, and it's something I'm still learning to control. Now, if you watch any of my other videos that talk about, what attracts me to watercolor is the lack of control. But it's an organized chaos is what I would call it, because you need some control, or else you're not going to be able to put forward what you're trying to put forward, right? If it just runs amok, then all you're doing is, smearing paint on the page. And I just realized he's got that little spot underneath his nose I didn't do anything with. I think I'm going to put a flesh tone there, whatever this flesh tone that I made up is. And I'm hoping all this is on camera, because I didn't check to see how far down the camera goes. And I actually like how this side turned out a little better. I got that brown on a little bit thicker, so we're gonna bring that over here. All right. Now, for those that haven't seen me for a while or watched some of my work-related videos, I have had a handlebar mustache recently. Something I do every once in a while. My kids like it. They like me having a handlebar mustache. Most people work-related don't. That's just something I've come to expect and experience. It just happens. So I want to get that. See, I want to get that spot. I want to get that flesh tone in there. But I also don't, because I know if I put something there, this is wet, so it's just going to bleed out. So I might as well move on to what I don't care bleeds a little bit. Right? So the brown on brown. And not to mention some of these lines, because it's an illustration, some of these lines are going to get cleaned up quite a bit when I go back over it with ink. And that's the nice thing about using ink in watercolor. I've actually been working at not using ink with some varying success. I can't say that I'm very successful at it, but it is something I'm learning, because it takes, I don't think it takes more control. I think it takes more confidence in what you're putting forward. And that's not, so I'm a very confident person in a lot of things, but I'm not a professional artist. So when it comes to my artwork and things that I do like that, I'm not as confident as you might think, because I struggle just like anybody else on these things. Here I said I do a horrible job at this, but I got this little gnome guy coming together, and I have to say he looks pretty darn good, better than I thought he would. And so people are going to say, well, that's not true. You don't have a problem with it. You're very good at it. And I'll go, well, yes, except no. So now I'm putting in some Dyke Brown. Again, part of the reason for this experiment is I want to see how these watercolors react. So I want to put some different colors down. I'm not doing massive mixing, but I want to put some colors down. I want to see what it does. What can I push these colors to do? Knowing that something like my paper choice can impact that. So I'm not using the highest quality paper I have, which, for me, I think for doing this type of thing, an illustration, that's probably a great thing, because, first off, if it didn't turn out well, then I don't have to worry about it. But secondly, ideally, something with an illustration I'm going to take and I'm going to turn into a sticker or something like that. Well, that seems like it'd be kind of wasted on high-end watercolor paper, you know what I mean? Now, I want to add some of this Dyke Brown to some spots up here in the mustache. So, and the reason for that is there are dark there are some shadows, right? At least there should be, right? It's supposed to be a full mustache, so I would say there would be shadows. I would put some shadows in this way and that way. And I'm not going to go too crazy, I hope. Now what I'm going to do, it's going to require me to move a little bit, and I wasn't planning on it. I'm going to grab a dry brush and pull this color over. See? Gives kind of a scratchy look. And anybody that has ever had a mustache or a beard can tell you it gets scratchy sometimes. I want to fill in that little white spot there, so what I'm going to do, possibly a darker pink mixture. See, I did it. I did it. I knew it was going to happen. Let's see if I can repair that. Oh, I can repair it a little bit. All right, I'm not going to try that again because I need that to dry before I can put more color down. Now, it's a cartoon, so I'm not going to do more on the eyes, just dark, you know, black spots in the middle. But I'm going to wait. I'm going to leave this to dry. And when we come back, I will maybe do some other touch-ups. Or I might do the touch-ups off camera because like that little spot would just be touched up. And I will do the inking when we are back together. So that should be coming up next.